Protests erupting in the West Bank ahead of President Trump's expected announcement tomorrow recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. President Trump spoke with several Middle East leaders today, and some have warned him of the fallout from the Arab world. Multiple reports say he's also expected to sign a waiver delaying a campaign promise to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Joining me now to discuss, Peter Brookes, Heritage National Security Affairs Fellow and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, and back with us again, Sarah Westwood. Peter, let me start with you. Very controversial move. Our Marines have been put on high alert in many Middle Eastern embassies, and we already see people taken to the streets of the West Bank.
Yeah, I mean, it's expected. We don't know what the president's going to say tomorrow, of course, right? I mean, there's reports out there, and they're probably reacting to that. We'll have to see what the president says, how nuanced he is. There's ways of doing this. I mean, if he decides,
either Jerusalem is viewed as the capital or not. If that is indeed what happens to stability in the region?
Not necessarily. It's not necessarily negative for it. It's possible we could see more protests. We could see violence. There will be those who will use it to advance their agendas. That would include Iran. That could include some terrorist organizations such as Hamas. But the fact of the matter is I think that this addresses an historical anomaly. That in our diplomatic relations, we're not recognizing the sovereign capital of a country, a friend and ally of the United States, and I don't think it necessarily prejudices future peace agreements. So we'll have to see what the president says tomorrow. So we're kind of trying to figure that out right now. Okay.
Well, speaking of having an impact or stoking terrorism, we've got breaking news coming in right now. Sky News, in fact, reporting an Islamic suicide plot to assassinate British Prime Minister Theresa May has been foiled. Sarah, you know, you wrote about Erdogan saying this is a red line. I'm not sure these two are associated, but certainly it's frightening news that they had their eyes set on assassinating Theresa May.
Absolutely. I mean, it just shows that the threat of terrorism, it's rising around the world, even in Western Europe. And certainly this decision by President Trump, it's significant, but it's not surprising. It could ignite tensions in the region, certainly, but the reality is that Israel's government is concentrated in Jerusalem. It has been what Israel believes to be its capital for a long time, and significantly, President Trump is not moving the embassy there. He's keeping it in Tel Aviv and allowing parties on the ground to negotiate what part of Jerusalem are they recognizing? West Jerusalem, all of Jerusalem, East Jerusalem too. These are really key details that will dictate how controversial the move is.
Right. And Peter, I got to get your thoughts on this. I want to follow up here. Sky News reporting that 2 men were arrested last week in preparations of active terrorism. And of course, we're hearing that the target was Theresa May. What are your thoughts? Because there have been some low-level attacks around the world, and this obviously would be a serious high-profile attack.
What I'm thinking about really, and we don't know who was behind this and who they're associated with, but one of the things I'm watching very closely is what happens to ISIS foreign fighters as ISIS caliphate crumbles. Where do they go? Where do they disperse to? Will they be a threat outside of Iraq and Syria? Will they return to their homelands? And so we don't know enough to say right now, but that's one of the things I'm looking at. And it shows us that there's still that major threat of terrorism out there.
Yes, Sarah, apparently it was going to be an improvised explosive device planted at 10 Downing Street. You know, we're glad they caught them, but the stakes have certainly gone extremely high around the Atlantic, across the Atlantic.
Certainly, yeah. Every country is being forced to take more and more precautions to guard against these kinds of attacks. Luckily, this one was foiled. They had information ahead of time. There have been many instances where authorities were not so fortunate to know in advance. So it'll be interesting when we hear more details to see who was involved in this and how the plot got so far developed.
Okay, and 2 suspects arrested last week in association with preparations for active terrorism. They both will appear in court tomorrow, so we will have more news. But once again, for the audience, apparently they were going to use improvised explosive devices and try to attack 10 Downing Street, with the target being British Prime Minister Theresa May. Now here's Lou Dobbs.